As home automation is becoming more and more popular, we're looking to try to automate and have control over our devices, such as our garage door or lights or front door. Here I have a really cool smart lock solution by Securam. It's called Securam Touch. Full disclosure, they sent this product to me for free. However, we did not exchange any money, nor they get to see my opinion of this product before I publish it. This video may be a little bit on the longer side, so I'm gonna break it down into different sections. You can also follow along looking at the timeline down in the description and in the timeline. Currently, you can get this bundle, the lock itself, as well as the hub for $299. But if you only want to get the lock, that it would still give you a lot of flexibility and accessibility using fingerprints and digital code and an actual lock on the device for, I believe, 200, it's 200 bucks, but they have a coupon. It will come down to about 175 bucks. So the question is this worth it? And if it is, which one's the right package for you? Let me pull up the camera. We'll do a quick unboxing, and then we'll go ahead do the installation. So first chapter, let's do an unboxing and review the specs. So here I got two boxes. One is the lock itself, and this is the hub that you can buy it separate. But if you want to get it bundled together, like I said, it is, I think, about 300 bucks. Let's open up the box. And as I review the product, I will share some of the unique features and characteristics of this lock. So first of all, there are 4 ways for you to unlock. You can unlock the door using the fingerprint sensor at the top. You can obviously use the code, and you can use a key that goes at the bottom, and these are high security keys. They are a little bit harder to crack, and also what's unique is it's secure. It's positions at the bottom of the lock, so many people may not even see and know that there is a keyhole at the bottom, and it's going to be harder to try to tamper that and mess around with it. And then the 4th way is you can use the app to unlock, but that requires you to have the hub. We already talked about the price. Now let's take a look at the deadbolts. This is a stainless steel deadbolt. I don't know if it's the entire housing or only the bolt itself. The screen right here, it's anti-smudge, so if you keep using the same code over and over again, it's not gonna really leave a fingerprint smudge for someone else to come and guess what your code is. We talked about the high security key. This works with Alexa, but again, you need to have the hub in order for that to work. It is waterproof and heat resistant. Another cool feature of it is it has an emergency 9-volt jumper, and that's down here. So if the internal battery dies and you don't have the key because you rely on using your fingerprints or the code to get in, you can use this to give it a little bit of a juice for you to be able to put your code in or use the fingerprint sensor at the top to be able to get in. You can also set up, obviously, visitor access, and it has an auto relock feature, so you can have it automatically lock the door when the door is closed. And the final cool physical feature of the lock is in the inside part, this right here. You see this button right here, that red button? You can actually turn all the access codes on and off. So let's say you get home and you want to have privacy and you don't want anybody with the code be able to gain access to the house, and you can just simply shut it all off right here. You don't have to go through the app and try to mess around that way. This is by far one of the coolest features I have ever seen. The rest is probably just some tools to help us with the installation. Yep. Oh, so it actually comes with batteries, and these are the keys. By the way, these are the high security keys I was talking about. Oh, I forgot to show you the hub. The hub is very straightforward. You simply plug it in, and there's only like one button on it. So because it's the same brand and there is really nothing else, I really hope and wish and expect for a very easy pairing between the hub and the lock. So we'll see how that will play out. So for the installation, first you want to go ahead, open up the box and lay out all the components of this lock, including the deadbolt, both sections of the lock, as well as the batteries, tools, and any screws and things like that that comes with this. You only need a Phillips screwdriver for the installation for the most part, unless you run into something unusual, but that's pretty much all you need. So you want to start by laying down all the components of the lock. Next, you need to uninstall the existing deadbolts. Typically, there are only a couple of screws that are holding it in place, and that shouldn't be very difficult to take out. And by the way, you have access to all the visuals of step-by-step through their app as well. Next, you get the deadbolts, and when you want to install it, it tells you which side needs to be up, so pay close attention to that, and you can just slide it right in place. Next, when you want to put the outer piece into the deadbolts, make sure that center metal piece is also vertical, and the cable, you want to pass it underneath the deadbolts that is inside, and that's how you will set that right in place. Next, what you want to do is you want to go ahead and use the tapes that came with the device. You want to go ahead and tape the lock in place so you can go ahead and install the inner components. I made a mistake. I accidentally threw away the 2 tapes that came with this, so I just used regular paint tape, those blue tapes, to try to secure that in place so I can complete the installation. And then you get this bracket, and then you will go ahead and slide it right in place. The bottom hole is for the cable, and then rest is pretty straightforward, and it secures in place with 2 screws. First, you can go ahead trying to line up the screws by hand by holding and pushing back the lock in place, the outer piece that is being held by the tape. And then once you kind of like find where the hole is, then you can go ahead start securing that plate in place. It may seem a little bit finicky at first, but once you find a spot, it should be pretty straightforward. And then once you're done, you can just tighten it with a screwdriver. Now that you have the bracket and the outer piece in place, you can go ahead and remove the tape. What you want to do, you want to go ahead quickly test the lock and make sure it works fine, and then you will do it by closing the door as well. Make sure it can slide in and out easily, so you're not gonna run into any problems later on down the road towards the end of our installation. Next, you need to go ahead connect the cable, and this part you need to go ahead and remove the battery cover, and you have this metal lever at the top. You need to pull that up. As you can see, it goes up and down. You need to pull that up, and then it gives you access to go ahead slide that back plate in place. It may seem a little bit finicky, but once you go ahead slide it in place, you will see that it will be very flush against the wall, and then push that metal piece in, and then it will be nice, tight, and secure. Again, of course, test the lock, make sure it opens and closes just fine. Once you put the batteries in, you need to go ahead or lock and unlock the device 3 times, and that is its initial calibration. The initial user code is 123456, so as you can see, it locks using that code. The other thing is that as far as the installation, it doesn't tell you in the beginning. You have these 2 flaps that you can go ahead pull out depending on which side your door opens, if it opens to the right or to the left. This basically is an added sensor if you also want the lock to recognize when the door itself is actually open or closed. That comes in handy when you want to use the auto lock feature, so you can tell it to auto lock when you actually close the door. So it comes with this small magnetic piece. You remove the adhesive, and the idea is to have that flap that opens from underneath the lock about half an inch from where that magnetic piece is. So it's not a very technical or difficult installation. You just open up that flap and you need to get it close to that magnet. First, when you download the app, you want to go ahead add your device for the first time. You can go ahead add the lock first. The steps are pretty straightforward. Just follow along. And like I mentioned, this app will also give you a visual instruction if you want to get help with the physical installation of the lock. But if you don't need that, then you can get back out of it and then get back to the normal installation. Follow the prompts. It tells you what you need to press on the door to go ahead, confirm your admin account, change the password, and things like that. And by the way, you can use the app without the hub, but it only works locally, so you have to be close. It uses Bluetooth and Wi-Fi signal to connect and work with the hub. But if you want to have remote access, that's where you need the hub, and that's where most of that flexibility and power will come in place. As part of the installation, it obviously asks you to set up your fingerprints. Each user gets to set up 2 fingers as well as a new code, and that's pretty much it. And then the app is working. You can lock and unlock with only about 1 second delay. Next step is installation of the hub. You go ahead, select the hub, and then once you select it, you go through the steps. Basically, the steps of the installation is you will go ahead, connect to the Wi-Fi signal that the hub will generate, and then as part of the installation, you give your Wi-Fi credentials to the hub, and then your hub can connect to your router, and the rest of the steps is pretty straightforward. I was running into some problems, and then I realized that that I was putting the wrong Wi-Fi password in. So locking and unlocking using the app and the device is pretty straightforward. The easiest and most convenient one is using your fingerprints, and that is going to unlock the door for you, and then you can push any button on the keypad to actually lock the device. Second is using a passcode, and then third way is using the key, which I don't think anyone's going to use it unless they really have to and something's wrong or not working. And then finally, using the app. In the app, you simply see your lock or unlock icon. You can tap on that and it will simply lock or unlock. And there's a lot more you can do within the app. So for example, when you come to the lock menu or lock screen, here you can generate one-time access. So you have access to that. By the way, the Smart Hub has the ability to connect and control up to 12 devices by Securam. Coming to the user section, this is where you set up your users. If you want to give temporary access to visitors and things like that, this is all done right here. And this is where you can manage your alerts. So there's not a whole lot to the app. The app is pretty straightforward. So let's start with the list of cons because it is a lot shorter. The first on the list is I wish this had Apple HomeKit connectivity. Now, if you don't use Siri for your home automation, or you're not even on an Apple ecosystem, this may not be that big of a deal. Me personally, I like it, I don't mind it, and I would have rather if this had Apple HomeKit connectivity, which it does not. The second thing is the types of battery this thing will use. So I will put a link to the name and link to some of the batteries that you can get. So this is not your typical battery you can get at 7-Eleven or grocery store. So you definitely have to order it online most likely. So I do recommend to buy a couple of batteries and have it spare somewhere around the house. So as you get the notification when the battery goes low, you can go ahead and change those because these are not common batteries. And the last I wish I have, and this is probably the biggest thing I don't like about this, is how you add users to your devices. When you go to try to add users, there are 2 types of users you add. One is if you want to add a family member, and one is if you want to add a visitor. When you want to add a family member, you cannot just go ahead, issue them a code, and then set them up in the app since you're the admin, and then set them up with their fingerprint access. The only way you can do that is by sending them an invitation from the app using their email, and then they have to download the app and go through the setup process themselves to set up the fingerprints as well as setting up their code. The reason I don't like that is if I want to set up my son to have use his fingerprint to be able to get inside the house, but he doesn't have an email address yet, and he may not be able to go ahead to take advantage of this. The second type is visitor access, and you can go ahead set up temporary access for your visitors without sending them an invitation, so that control, you have that. I just wish we had the flexibility so I can choose what I want to do when I'm trying to set up these users. There may be a reason behind it. Me as a user, I don't like it. Next, then we get to a laundry list of things I really like about this. Most smart locks, you either use a keypad or a fingerprint. Obviously the app and the key is pretty standard. So There are normally 3 ways for you to unlock the door. This has a 4th way, which is fingerprint, and you have fingerprint and you have a keypad, and I'm a huge fan of that. Fingerprint is a lot more convenient than entering a code in, so that's the first thing I like. The other thing is the concern about if your battery dies, what would you do if you don't have your keys with you? This has that 9-volt jumper outside, so you have these 2 small connectors at the bottom. You would just go ahead, connect a 9-volt battery, and then you'll be able to gain access to your lock. Then there are other security features, such as the fact that this, the touchpad is anti-smudge, it is water resistant, it is heat resistant. The key that you have is a high security key, and it's located at the bottom, so many people may not even know you have a keyhole in this lock. And these are some of the things I really like about that. The auto relock feature, that is pretty cool. And then finally, having that physical visitor access kill switch on the lock, I think it's just brilliant. You don't have to get in the app to try to disable the codes. You can just go ahead, flip that switch from inside the house, and then any visitor access is not gonna work. Only family members will be able to gain access and come through. So here's the thing. Is it worth to pay $300 to get this bundle with the hub and the lock? Or should you consider getting the cheaper one without the hub? I believe if you want to have a true connected device, you want to have remote access. And I cannot tell you how priceless and valuable that is. So you start driving away and you go into work, to a friend's house, wherever you're going, and then 5 minutes, 10 minutes down the road, you're thinking, oh my God, did I lock the door or not? With having the hub, you have that access. So my recommendation is either get the $300 bundle or just don't even get this at all and consider other options. But if you do it, make sure you have remote access. So would I recommend this for $300? I am heavily leaning towards yes, because most smart locks that you actually have ability to control them remotely, they cost anywhere between $200 to $300, the ones that are actually high quality. But the downside is you either have to buy an additional hub similar to this one to be able to have that connectivity, or if you have that access, you may not have access to a fingerprint reader and a keypad. It's typically either or. More often than not, it's only a keypad. So to have fingerprint access, keypad, and be able to have remote access, this will be one of the products that I will be recommending moving forward until I come across another lock that I would prefer. If you guys are still watching, you are a trooper. Thank you so much for hanging out all the way to the end of the video. As always, if you got any recommendations as far as these contents, how I can improve my videos, or if you got any questions about these product that are reviews, definitely drop a comment down below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.